Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or are watching the channel for the very first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform we discuss everyday issues where find logical solutions, but not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I also want to let everybody know that the subscriber mode has been enabled. What does that mean? That means that in order to enter a comment in the chat, you need to be a subscriber. So, what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification to all. So, therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live and or catch it on the playback. So, I also want to give a huge shout out. Well, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who have subscribed to the channel, whether it be from the beginning or just recently. Thank you very much. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, or Twitter, or Instagram. And I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter new devices. So, as you can see here, the topic for tonight is who is Cornell? So, we're going to talk about him in a few minutes. Before we do, I do have many things which I need to discuss and I need to cover. I'll try to keep it as brief and to the point. It's just that I have some things to share, some of them good, some of them not so good. So we're gonna have another edition of In My Words. Okay. So first of all, let's just begin with the good news. This Sunday, I was able to participate in the National Puerto Rican Day Parade on Fifth Avenue. Now, thanks to the generosity of my union SSE Local 371, I was able to get a ticket to sit in the grandstand. Okay. Now, through some a slip up on my part, I actually ended up standing behind where the VIP section is supposed to be. So they saw me with a can. They said allow me to stay in the VIP section, and I was able to get a wristband indicating that I am a VIP. So I was standing in the grandstand, and I was able to see the parade from a seated position. So, and of course, it was an opportunity for me to show my pride as a fellow Boricua. And I just want to say to my fellow Boricuas, soy Boricua para que lo sepa. Yo soy Boricua para que lo sepa. So, and then I finally got a chance to see members of my union, which is SSE Local 371, marching in front of me, and I was able to wave, and they waved back. So I had a marvelous time. So I'm gonna encourage you, whether you're Puerto Rican or not, um, to consider participating in the Puerto Rican Day Parade, whether it be to simply standing in the sidelines or in my case, sitting in the grandstand or even marching in the parade. Now we're going to get into the not so good part. The first person I'm going to address is a YouTube character named Lashid. It's been brought to my attention that she has said a couple of things regarding me and regarding my platform. Not wasn't anything critical. It's just that felt like a little she felt a little slighted regarding some remarks I made regarding her and her platform. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply assume that you don't know anything about me, nor anything about this channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain it to you. Okay. Here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues. Okay. And we try to find logical solutions. Now, what I do here is I try very hard to maintain a safe space so that people can express their point of views. And there'll be times when people will express a viewpoint where there's going to be disagreements. Okay. And actually, what Gigi was doing, she just was expressing to me, and basically the whole thing got started because I saw on the streams which you had some issues with Gigi, and of course I gave my honest reaction. Okay, which is, it's simply not my cup of tea. Okay, it was not meant to be a put down or anything. I was just expressing opinion, and even you admitted that. But I would just suggest, before you say anything, that you at least watch some of my material before you arrive at your conclusion regarding I'm not so nice or what have you. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Normally, I would extend an invitation for you to be on the platform, but unfortunately, if I do that, then it will be conflict, and I'm not really into playing referee, okay? Because I do know you have issues with Gigi, and Gigi has issues with you, and let's just simply agree the fact that you two have issues with each other, okay? Now, on a more serious nature, I was troubled watching a stream that Gigi made earlier today, being facing charges of abuse and neglect by Children's Services. Now, let me make this perfectly clear. Okay, in this country, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Let me repeat: everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And unfortunately, the previous time where there were allegations of abuse directed towards Gigi, they proved to be unfounded. Okay. And unfortunately, there's people that hate Gigi so much that she's been doxxed. Also, there have been accusations of abuse and neglect, and there's been all sorts of other crap mentioned, and also alluding to her regarding her criminal past. Gigi never claimed to be an angel. Okay, if she is who her ops make up to be, no. Okay, I have been dealing with the Gigi for a year, and in my humble opinion, she's a very creative YouTube creator. She's sweet. I mean, and unfortunately, she has haters. So, and unfortunately, haters have gone through doxing her, making false accusations about abuse and neglect towards the children, and also allegations that she's divorced and what have you. I got news for the detractors. What's going on in the personal life of a YouTube creator, whatever YouTube creator, is none of your concern. It's not my concern. Okay? So I find it very and another reason to find something. I'm also a mandated reporter. So therefore, if I see in a situation where I suspect this possible abuse and neglect regarding children, I have the duty to inform my my immediate superior, and then they would advise what to do, and if necessary, um, get in contact with Children's Services and file a claim of abuse or neglect. I mean, and whenever people file false claims of abuse and neglect, they make it harder on those who have legitimate abused or neglected children. So we live in a day and age when people cannot respectfully disagree. Okay, and let me just state this to all the distractors that Gigi has to face, all the haters that she has to face. You don't like her content. There is a simple solution. Don't consume it. Okay? There are literally hundreds of thousands of YouTube creators out there that you can engage with as far as whatever type of entertainment, whatever floats your boat. So, okay. And one thing I have learned that if you have anything positive to say about a person, then don't say anything at all. So, and Gigi, if you are listening, I really reach out to you. I will keep you and your family in prayer, and hopefully everything will work out fine. Okay. You're always welcome here on this platform. This is a safe space for not just for Gigi, but for everyone who wishes to discuss issues in a respectable way. Okay. And let me also make perfectly clear anyone, and I repeat, anyone who makes false accusations regarding abuse or neglect, whether it be child abuse, whether it be domestic violence, anyone that has such hatred towards any YouTube creator is not welcome here. Okay. And I'm going to ask my mods to make sure that to help me make sure that this platform is free of such haters because we do not need it. Okay. And unfortunately, I have to take time out of this stream address this issue. Well, unfortunately, this is something that have to be addressed, and it's something I plan to at some point discuss regarding what abuse and neglect. And actually, on Thursday's stream, I'm going to be talking about the haters. Now, that's something that each YouTube creator has to deal with. Some of them it's just simply in the form of saying some stupid words or make stupid remarks, and others it's just that basically gotten vicious. So, with that being said, we're going to get into the main topic. Okay, so the main topic, as I stated before, the main topic tonight is who is Cornell West. Now, to be perfectly honest, I did not know much about him until recently. But the fact of the matter, what makes it unique about this individual is that, first of all, he's very educated. And let me just share with you his biography regarding this individual. Okay. Cornell, actually, his full name is Cornell Ronald West. Is an American philosopher, political actor, social critic, actor, and public intellectual. Okay. Now, in 2024, Cornell West made the announcement that he's going to run in the 2024 election as a candidate for the Green Party. Okay. Now, one thing I can tell you about this individual is that he's highly educated. He has his bachelor's degree from Harvard University and his PhD, actually his master's and PhD from Princeton University. Okay. Uh, he has written several books, one of them being Race Matters and another one being Democracy Matters. Okay. Okay. Now, as far as institutions where he had taught, were such as Union Theological Seminary, University, Harvard University, and the University of Dartmouth College. Okay. Now, as far as what's been his people that influence him, such individuals as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, W.E.B. Du Bois, James Cone, Karl Marx, James Baldwin, excuse me, just kidding. Frederick Engels, B.R. Ambecker, Richard Rorty, Reinhard Niebuhr, Sheldon. Well, in other words, a wide assortment of individuals had influence in his life. Okay. He's also the grandson of a Baptist minister, and he focused on the role race, gender, and class in American society. And his we see influence was things Christianity, the Black church, populism, Marxism, neo-pragmatism, and transcendentalism. Okay. He is also well known among the progressive circles. Okay. He was a supporter of the Obama administration. Later on, he became a critic. So now, what's makes unique is that Cornell West decided not to try to run as a candidate of the two major parties, which is the Democratic and Republican Party. Okay. The fact of the matter is, what makes it a challenge is that the People's Party is only registered in a handful of states. So the fact of the matter is, because in this country, the result of who becomes president is not based on the popular vote. It is based on a thing called electoral college, where in order to become president, a candidate must have gained 270 electoral votes. Because because there are 530 electoral votes which represents the 435 congressional seats, 100 seats in the Senate, and 3 in the District of Columbia. So, with that being said, what I'm going to do is, just give me a moment. In a few minutes, I'm going to play just the audio regarding an interview which Amy Goon of Democracy Now! Conducted with Cornell West. Okay, I'm only going to play the audio because I don't want to get hit with a copyright strike. So, and of course, under fair use, you can share information as long as it is a critique. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the interview from Amy Goodman of Democracy Now!
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Well, the 2024 presidential race is becoming more crowded. Former Jersey Governor Chris Christie and former Vice President Mike Pence have both joined the Republican race. Meanwhile, the philosophy professor and civil rights activist Cornell West has announced he's running for president as a candidate with the People's Party. In a short video released Monday, Dr. West criticized both the Democratic and Republican parties.
We're talking about hating anybody. We're talking about loving. We're talking about affirming. We're talking about empowering those who have been pushed to the margins. Because neither political party wants to tell the truth about Wall Street, about Ukraine, about the Pentagon, about big tech.
West's announcement surprised many political observers. In 2008, he endorsed Barack Obama, but later became a vocal critic of the Obama-Biden administration. In 2016 and 2020, he backed Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primaries. Cornell West is now running as a member of the People's Party, which was founded by a former staffer of Sanders after the 2016 election as an alternative to the two-party system. This will be the first time the party has fielded a candidate for president. According to the New Republic, the People's Party has ballot access in barely a handful of states. Dr. West is one of the nation's most recognized public intellectuals. He's a professor of philosophy and Christian practice at Union Theological Seminary. He formerly taught at Princeton and Harvard universities. He's joining us now from Irvine, California. Cornell West?
Okay, so as you can see, that's one of the challenges among many that the People's Party and this candidate has to face with is that they are in the ballot in a few states, okay? In order for anyone to have a serious attempt to be a viable candidate, they must be registered as a candidate in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. So as you can see, there are many challenges. And also, one of the things I did not realize is also been some issues regarding the party itself, which will be shared in a few minutes. So we're going to go back to the audio portion of this interview. Again, let me just make this quickly clear. Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use.
Welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. Can you talk about why you've decided to run for President of the United States?
First, Sister Amy, I want to salute you. You are an exemplar of longevity, integrity, and consistency. You know, we go back many, many decades. So I just want to always begin on that note. You're putting a smile on Brother George and Sister Dorothy's face, your precious parents. But no, my announcement of running for President of the United States to be head of the empire to help dismantle it in such a way that poor and working people would be at the very center, at the very core of our vision of what a good society actually is. It has to do, as you can imagine, with these very bleak times, these very desperate times. So it's a kind of act of desperation. You know, I'm 70 years old. I've been at this for 55 years, and I have a calling that flows out of the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel and Edward Said and Hugh Joseph and Dorothy Day and Grace Lee Boggs and Louisa Marino. All of those are the best of America. And I think we're at such a low point that America needs to be reintroduced to its best. And its best has always been the movements for justice, the struggles for freedom, the solidarity based on a fundamental commitment to the dignity of those Sly Stone calls everyday people. And there's no doubt in my mind that the two-party system now is a major impediment for the empowerment of poor and working people. I'm thoroughly convinced that, of course, the neo-fascist Republican Party has already made it very clear that They tied to big business and big military, big tech, and so forth. And the milquetoast neoliberal Democratic Party strikes me as being incapable of taking seriously the fundamental needs of poor and working people, not just here, but around the world. The militarism abroad. $7 billion from Afghanistan, and what's been AFRICOM in Africa, what's been going on in the Middle East. Thank God that you keep track of the precious Palestinian brothers and sisters and all that.
Now let's pause this for a moment. So as you can see, and actually there are quite a few people are not happy with the two major parties, okay, for various reasons. And I find it very interesting that it was phrased as an act of desperation and sort of, if I can, I don't know if I'm paraphrasing it correctly, repackaging of America. So, but the reality, like I said before, he does have a major hurdles to overcome. Not just the fact that he has to be registered as a candidate in all 50 states, but there's also the issue regarding fundraising, of which it was reported that he has pledged not to take any corporate money. So that means that he's going to have to depend on the goodwill of many small donors. So let's continue. Again, fair use, fair use, fair use.
The hell that they're catching is you have it every day. And I thank God that you do. Why? Because Palestinian peoples deserve to have a visibility in terms of their suffering and ways in which they can attempt to.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
Get out. More and more, it's becoming not just a fad and a fashion, it's becoming a normalized way of life. And that is what leads toward wholesale fascism, not just here, but in other parts of the world. We've seen it, of course, in Hungary. Saw it in Brazil, and go on in this regard. So for me, it's really a matter of trying to be consistent with what I've been about for the last 55 years.
Cornell, you talk about militarism. I want to ask you about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In March of last year, you told the New Yorker, "We must try to stop the war, recognizing that the American empire has little or no moral authority when it comes to violation of international law and the overthrow of national sovereignty, as in Latin America, the Middle East, and Asia." You've also...
Now, some people might get upset with that assessment, but I think one thing that we all have to take into consideration is the fact that this country has been involved in many areas, and unfortunately, not always for the well-being of other countries, but more for the well-being of the United States. That's something that it could be very hard to accept, but the fact of the matter is sometimes accepting the truth can be hard. So let us continue. Again, fair use, fair use, fair use.
So-called Putin, you've been severely critical of President Putin for the invasion. Talk about your views on what happened, what is happening, and how the war needs to end.
Well, one, I think you have the clash of two empires. The Russian Empire is a deeply wounded empire. It's had its territory cut back. Of course, its economy is shrinking. And then you've got the American Empire, which is the most powerful empire in the history of the world. In fact, it's the 68th empire out of the 70, going back to the beginning of the human species. And so on the one hand, you have the promise of the American Empire to the elites in the Russian Empire: we will not move an inch. And within decades, 14 of the satellite countries of the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, are part of NATO. There's missiles right on the borders and boundaries of the Russian Empire. Now, we know empires behave like empires. I mean, if there's missiles in Canada and Mexico, the U.S. government would blow them to smithereens quick. We saw it in Cuba in 1962. So that empires behave like empires. They're greedy. They're driven by predatory capitalist dispositions. They're obsessed with hierarchy. They're concerned with domination and conquest. The Alexander the Great, associated with a grand empire. So that in that regard, there's no doubt in my mind that the expansion of NATO has played a crucial role in the wounded Russian Empire with all of its repression, all of its regimentation. Let us never forget about the thousands of Russian brothers and sisters who are going to jail in opposition to gangster Putin's criminal invasion. But he's pushed against the wall and he responds. That's how heads of empire respond. So we've got to be in solid.
Now, the reality is this, like I said before, there's no innocent parties here. Well, the only innocent parties, so to speak, are the civilians. Unfortunately, that's what happens whenever there's armed conflict. So, I mean, and again, we don't have to agree with everything this man talks about or preaches about. But I think what we need to do is we need to sit and listen to what's being said, listen to the facts, and then make your decision.
Solidarity with the suffering of Ukrainian brothers and sisters, but we have to recognize NATO is an instrument of American imperial foreign policy. We've seen it over and over again, and so we're witnessing a proxy war. There must be a ceasefire. There must be a stopping of that war. Why? We're on the road to nuclear war. That's the last thing we want to see, my dear sister.
And as president, what exactly would you do?
Now, the fact of the matter is, in this day, in this day where multiple country has multiple nuclear warheads, there's always the possibility that it can go into a nuclear conflict. So it's very important for leaders to maintain calm and try to talk and try to reach some sort of a solution. Okay? Just bear in mind. So we will continue and use fair use.
To stop that war?
Oh, one is I would pull back on the U.S. military support. I would sit down with the elites from the Chinese empire, given all of their forms of regimentation and repression in their own context. Think about our precious Muslim brothers and sisters in China, the Uyghurs. But I would sit down with the Chinese, I would sit down with the Ukrainians, I would sit down with the Russians and say, we're going to stop this war and we're going to come up with a plan, a process with a variety of voices heard to make sure that the suffering stops and we understand and we're honest about the larger context of the war. And unfortunately, we just don't get this kind of perspective, in corporate media. Thank God for democracy now. And
now, some people will disagree with that, but one thing we have to bear in mind is that we have many types of media out there, but you either have those media that leans towards the left or lean towards the right. So this is just something to consider. And let us continue. And again, fair use, fair use, fair use.
Thank God for a few other venues to try.
I'm going to speed this ahead.
Well, it's not just an artistic skill. The Ron Carter's geniuses like that still alive remind us. It's also a form of practical wisdom. As freedom fighters, we got to be improvisational. We got to be flexible. We got to be fluid. We got to be protein. We got to learn how to listen. We can't be dogmatic. We can't be ossified. We can't be petrified in how we look at the world. And right now, we have to have presidential debates and politics in which people who look at the world through the lens of what the great Frantz Fanon called the wretched of the earth.
Cornell West.
Poor people and working people, no matter what color, gender, sexual orientation, national identity, or region.
Cornell, you were a surrogate for Bernie Sanders. In fact, in 2016, he chose you as one of the people to write the Democratic Party platform. Have you talked to him about your campaign, you deciding to go outside the two-party system? He ran although he is an independent and a socialist, he ran inside the Democratic Party. And has he given you advice?
No, I haven't talked to Bernie recently. We just did a wonderful event based on his wonderful book with Brother John Nichols there in Brooklyn Academy of Music. We had a wonderful time, Sister Jane and my beloved wife, Anahita. We had a wonderful time with him. And Bernie will always be my brother. I've got a forever love for that brother. We just have disagreements. I don't think he would be surprised, though, because I, of course, supported the Greens. Sister Jill Stein, after I supported him, just got to go back to the great Ralph Nader. And a lot of people try to view those two as spoilers. They're not spoilers at all. You had mediocre neoliberal candidates who could not galvanize the public, so you don't blame it on the weaker parties. And we will never actually be able to deal with the escalating fascism in America with milquetoast neoliberalism. You just end up with caretaker government. You end up with postponing the collapse of democracy, as my dear brother Jeff Stout says. Well, you have to get at the roots of fascism, which means I'm going to Trump country, Sister Amy. I'm going to talk to those white brothers and talk to those white sisters and say, quit scapegoating the most vulnerable. Let us confront the most powerful. I don't have a minute for any kind of xenophobia, but at the same time, I know you're catching hell. I know many of you have been losers in corporate globalization. You've been pushed against the wall by big monopolies and oligopolies. You have difficulty trying to engage in any kind of unionization. You have to transform and transpose and filter your fears through different means rather than following a neo-fascist Pied Piper. We got to be able to speak to these folk directly and as fellow citizens, and I plan to do that. Now, of course, I come out of the black tradition, and so I've got to wrestle with my own black bourgeoisie. I got to wrestle with my own black politicians who reinforce the neoliberal hegemony in the black community. And I got to do it lovingly, but I'm going to do it in a very direct way.
Now, this is another interesting point and I'm hesitant to make any observations regarding the African American community, being that I'm not a member of that community. But it's safe to say that this community has undergone a lot of trials and tribulations and going, and things of that nature. And unfortunately, there's not a great deal of unity in thought and mission. So that's all, and that's based on what I'm able to see. Okay, so let us continue.
They, in many ways, have given up on the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. They've become intoxicated too often with the felicities of bourgeois existence, intoxicated with the wine of the world, as the great Negro national anthem, Lift Every Voice, says. But we got black poor, black working people catching hell, mass incarceration, crime against humanity. Who's the major architect of mass incarceration? Joe Biden. Invasion and occupation of Iraq. How many precious Iraqis killed? At least 500,000. Iraqi life has exactly the same value as a life anywhere else in the world as a Palestinian life, a Jewish life, a Lithuanian life, an Ethiopian life, Mormon life, whatever.
Professor West.
Now, this just gives you an idea how this man thinks, okay? And we all may disagree or agree with what he says. What I would appreciate if he just, calmly and rationally assess what is his doctrine, assess what is his goals in a logical manner, okay? Now let us continue. And again, fair use, fair use, fair use.
I wanted to go to one of your first campaign videos, which features a clip of an interview you did with podcaster Joe Rogan. Last year, Spotify faced a wave of calls to remove Rogan from its platform for promoting misinformation about COVID-19, but also after this video resurfaced showing Rogan using the N-word on his show 24 times. I just want to play a clip.
Well, I'm not going to play the audio because basically it's just going to be a couple of bleeps. But I mean, that's, it's controversial when you appear with a person who reportedly said the N-word and reportedly have shared certain beliefs when it comes to COVID-19. Now, I have said on numerous occasions during the pandemic the following information. I have not told people that they have to vaccinate. I have not told people they don't have to vaccinate. What I've said has been the following. Any concern that you have, you discuss it with a doctor, with a trained medical physician. You ask valuable and pertinent questions. And then based on the information and feedback that you receive, you make your decisions. And the fact of the matter is, there are ways when people can have an immune system naturally. Good evening, Irby. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. Tonight we're talking about Cornell West. He has announced that he's running as a candidate for president of the United States and the People's Party. So what I'm just doing is I'm just trying to share some information regarding this person. And no doubt, Irby, you heard about the terrible news, the terrible situation that happened with our dear friend Gigi. And just I'm going to state for the record, I'm personally disgusted with all the stuff that she has to go through. So now back to the audio.
Yes, saying the word.
Okay.
Pointing out what he was doing, especially, and saying, can you talk about why you featured him in your campaign ad?
Well, one is it's an attempt to show that we have to have a realignment, which means you have to be able to speak to people you have some deep disagreements with. And Brother Joe Rogan, he said a number of things that I have deep disagreements with. I don't think that censorship, for the most part, is the proper or appropriate way. I really don't. I think that people must be free to express themselves, but you would hope that they would have respect for others, especially Black folk, indigenous peoples, gay brothers, lesbian sisters, Jews, Muslims, Arabs, those who traditionally have been degraded. But I think it's very important that we have conversations across ideological and political lines, and therefore they're going to say it's sometimes some things that we have to call into question. We keep them accountable. I'm glad that the great Indian Ari did that. That's a beautiful thing. That she has the right to do that as well, to keep him accountable. But I am suspicious of this censorship because usually the censorship in the end zeroes in on freedom fighters, love warriors.
Now, many of you may not recall, but the first live calling show that I did is there censorship in YouTube? Okay, and we gave examples where there have been attempts to limit free speech, and there are times when freedom of expression have to be limited, basically in times of war. Okay, now I'm going to state it again. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, in fact, I'm going to be doing a stream on Thursday regarding haters in general. Okay, and unfortunately, social media is full of haters. Now, getting back, now, one thing that's been the key point about this platform is the freedom for people to express their point of views as they see fit. And there'll be times when we're going to disagree. The key is that we be respectable where we disagree. That's the reason why here on this platform, I don't censor people. The only thing I ask is please be respectful. So obviously, there's going to be some people who will be on this platform that's going to swear like a sailor, okay, or a truck driver and what have you. And that's perfectly fine. I don't swear a lot, but I respect the fact that people have a right to express the way they want to bleed. Do it. Yeah, YouTube needs to do a better job when it comes to protecting the creators. Okay, what will be the solution? I have no idea. So let us continue. Again, free use, free use, free use.
The wounded healers. You think of the great Paul Robeson. You think of Claudia Jones. You think W.B. Du Bois. You think of Luisa Moreno, who I mentioned, one of the greatest of the Latino freedom fighters of the last 150 years, who was deported to Guatemala because she supposedly had communist associations and so forth. So that kind of censorship is something that I'm very, very suspicious of. I've got deep libertarian sensibilities in that regard.
India Ari also said she's against cancel culture and ultimately went back on Spotify. So, Democracy Now!, we ask very critical questions. I also want to read from a New Republic article about your candidacy and about the People's Party. The article states, quote, while the party began in 2017 with noble roots to form a new political party independent from corporate money and influence, it's been mired in troubling allegations as well as broader organizational dysfunction, numerous sources of corroborated sexual harassment allegations against party founder Nick Brana. Last year, former party member Paul Jean said she'd witnessed Brana try to force himself onto former party executive director Zana Day. Confirmed the allegations herself. Numerous party board members.
Good evening, Gigi. Thank you for stopping by. Unfortunately, I did see your video regarding the crap that you have to deal with. Okay, hello? I just want to let you know that I will keep you and your family in prayer, that there'll be a quick resolution to the stupidity. And one thing, I'm going to make it perfectly clear. I made it clear earlier on the stream. I'm going to repeat it again. No one, and I repeat, no one that makes false claims with children's services who doxes people will ever be welcome on this platform. And as always, Gigi, you're always welcome to come in and share your point of view. Okay. And haters, look, that's all I'm going to say. Okay. You're quite welcome, Gigi. I just want to make that perfectly clear. That while technically, I'm not actually part of the Golden Spear, I'm more or less adopted, but I just want to let you know that this is a safe space for you, okay? And of course, you have my support. So I just wanted to make that perfectly clear. And now let's continue. And the topic for this stream is who is Cornell West? He is known in the progressive circles as a philosopher and what have you, and he's running as a candidate for the People's Party. And there's been some issues regarding the party itself, okay? And yeah, it's all off here, okay? You will have it, okay? As long as God allows me to live here on planet Earth, you will always have my support, okay? And also, if you ever feel free to talk with me, whether it be on Discord or call me, by all means do so. I'll be calling you, but I just wanted to respect your space, okay? And I understand everyone deals with crisis in a different way, and I didn't want to, like, in my attempt to call you, to cause you any more grief. So we will continue. I'm not trying to make you cry. I just want to show you my support. That's all. Okay. Well, yeah. You did. As I recall, I think you did say that you work at night. So, and actually, it could be therapy. So, but we will continue.
Brana has also praised the prominent anti-vaxxer Robert Kennedy Jr., who's also running for president. Kennedy is a, quote, courageous leader whose environmental and vaccine advocacy has illuminated issues that few dare to confront. So he's the founder of the party that you're running with, the People's Party. Talk about why you chose the People's Party, and if you would like to respond to those allegations. And also the bigger point of why you didn't choose, for example, if you wanted to be outside the race, the Green Party, which has more ballot access, but that's a lot there, Cornell.
Yeah, no, indeed, and I appreciate that question too, my dear sister. I mean, I have a great love for my Green Party brothers and sisters. I've worked twice with them, and so I have nothing against their third party operation. It would be nice if we had even a coming together, but that's something that it's for a different show. But in terms of the history of the People's Party, I was there at the founding. There's no doubt about that. And I've been a kind of honorary member of the board, even though I haven't participated. So I haven't followed all of the insides and outsides of what has happened. It strikes me that there's been some very bad and ugly moments. There's no doubt about that. But I don't want to adjudicate as to who actually is guilty or who's actually innocent, because I just don't know. But there has to be accountability, and especially when it comes to sexual harassment. In terms of sisters of any color, she was wrestled with very serious charges in that regard. But as I said before, that for me, I wanted to be able to bring a serious critique to bear on the corporate duopoly. And the People's Party, in its inception and in its vision, is a populist one. So you got a number of different voices, heterogeneous. It is very loose. A lot of people say, well, is it an organization at all? I mean, does anything hold it together, and so forth and so on? Well, that we shall see. Those are very important questions. I don't want to act as if that they aren't serious challenges. But I think that if we can deliver in such a way that we are treating each and every working person and poor people of any color with great respect in this campaign, if we can raise voices to shape the discourse and dialogue in this campaign, if we can not but begin to point out that the choice between the neo-fascist President Trump, criminal in so many ways, and the milquetoast Biden, who's so tied into corporate wealth and corporate power, they can have austerity in the recent debt ceiling agreement and still allow the military expansion, that we might be able to go much further than a lot of people think. A lot of people think it has to be wrestled with. I don't want to downplay that. I just hope that we really do keep the focus, though, on what can be done at this particular moment, not to erase the history, but to make sure that as we make history in this moment, that we are doing all and everything we can.
So, Cornell West, what would you do?
People and working people are at the center.
And what would you do?
Now, I know there are people who really strain, who support Trump, and of course you have every right to do so, okay? And of course, we shall see what will happen as regarding allegations raised against Donald Trump, okay? Again, it isn't proven, so we will continue with the audio portion of this interview. Again, fair use, fair use, fair use.
About immigration rights right now in this country, about reproductive rights right now in this country, and about this incredible threat to the country, the greatest domestic violence threat, which is white supremacy. You were at the Unite the Right rally in Virginia, not participating in it, but there when you saw the neo-Nazis march threatening you.
Absolutely. I mean, Brother Martin used to say that the bombs that we drop abroad land at home. The militarism around the world comes back to haunt us, and we've got police departments that are militarized. You have to break the back of the culture of silence of the police departments that think they can get away with mistreating, brutalizing, sometimes murdering fellow citizens. And as you know, those fellow citizens are disproportionately black and brown, but it includes all colors in terms of police murders every year that the Washington Post and other newspapers keep track of. But you've got to, as a president, you've got to use whatever charisma, whatever language, whatever eloquence you can to try to ensure that you set an atmosphere such that mechanisms of accountability, not just in police departments, but at the workplace. We need workers' control that Rick Wolf and others have talked about, not just at the workplace, but in our cultural life. The organized greed has been on steroids, commodify everything for sale, everybody must be radically called into question. And as a leader, you call for spiritual moral reckoning and try to, in some sense, exemplify that, not just in your policies, you see, but in your tone.
Cornell, we have 10 seconds.
Okay, so I'm just going to end it here. Yes, Gigi, there have been multiple allegations levied against Donald Trump. And again, and we got to continue with the same premise. Everyone, and I repeat, everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Okay? So, and I'm just going to say, okay, I've said what my point of view regarding the situation in English. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say in Spanish. I apologize since there's some sort of fireworks in the background. Yeah, it's 2024. It's going to be a very bumpy ride, okay, as far as the election is concerned. Ahora, con respecto de las acciones que fue dirigido sobre Golden Goddess, eso algo que es muy triste, porque la verdad que eso, cuando una persona han hecho acusaciones de abuso infantil, es algo serio. Y cuando hay personas que hacen esas acusaciones que no son válidas, hace la vida más difícil para personas que en serio quieren reportar casos de abuso infantil. Entonces, cuando hay personas que usan la trampa a acusar de abuso infantil como una forma de venganza, eso es algo muy feo y muy triste. Y lo poca vergüenza de estas personas que han hecho acusaciones así sin evidencia es muy mal. So basically, I just simply said what I've said before in English, which was whenever you make false accusations of abuse, it makes it harder for everybody else. So, and of course, this has been a monologue for an hour. Okay. So the link is in the chat. The link has been pinned. If anyone wishes to enter, join the panel, they can do so. Anyone wishes to enter any more comments, they can do so. If no one wishes to join, if there's no further activity, then I'll start to wrap it up. Okay. And well, I will say this. Cornell West has many obstacles to overcome. The first thing, he's going to have to be on the ballot in all 50 states in order to have any opportunity to be successful. Number one. Number two is going to take either a huge amount of money or he's going to have a huge amount of supporters. Cornell West, like everybody else, he has his supporters and he has his haters. And as I said it before, he is known to be an advocate for progressive causes such as universal health care, reproductive rights, and things of that nature, and deep reductions in the military, which there are people that are in 100% disagreement. Okay, so the whole point, not to say, he's a great candidate or he's a lousy candidate. The whole point is just simply to have a discussion regarding his candidacy and whether or not he'll be successful. Okay, I will say this much: he's going to have to be on all 50 states because here in this country, it's not by popular vote, it's by the Electoral College. And here's an interesting point. Do you think Professor West has a chance? Let's be honest, he needs far less social. Okay. I'm going to be perfectly honest. He's going to have a very hard time trying to push that agenda. Okay. It's one thing if you're talking about, say, in such blue states like New York, California, Illinois, and things of that nature, to have what's considered progressive views. When you're talking about states where it's more conservative, like Florida, the South, portion of the West, that may not fly very well. Okay. He has a buzz, he does, he's going to have to make a case to the American people. And the reality is this. As much as a progressive, or as people will say, he's going to have to come to the middle at some point. So I say he has a very difficult road to lead. And to be perfectly honest, he does not, in my humble opinion, he does not have much of a chance. Okay. I will say this much: if he gets, if he's on the ballot on 50 states and is able to raise money um, for a campaign, we shall see it. We shall see. I'm not. I don't consider myself a leftist. I don't consider myself a progressive. I'm more or less in the middle of the road, and I suspect that the majority of Americans are middle of the road. Okay, so I don't think. Okay, I don't think he's going to be successful. Successful, but you know what? I could be wrong. Okay, maybe this country is ready. I mean, I don't know. But I will say this much: in many parts of the country, people are getting sick and tired of this narrative where genders must flow, and that allowing drag queens and to teach children how to be transgendered and what have you. So that's ugh. Yeah. You know what? I suspect Irby, the majority of Americans are middle of the road. Okay. So the extremes are not very good, whether it be to the left or to the right. Okay. So that being said, I do appreciate that within an 8-day period. Okay, I have done 3 call-in shows, 1 short video, and 1 short stream, of which I've gotten um, in total close to 950 views. Okay. And actually, on my last stream on Friday night, uh, at one time there was actually, including myself, 8 people on the. Okay, something that Anthony Ali has not been able to do, Future has not been able to do, Magic has not been able to do, um, Malado Vanguard neither, and definitely Hybrid and the Owl Show. Oh, which reminds me, one person I forgot to mention when I mentioned my talk about in my words, the Hybrid. Hybrid. You have now as enemies or ops Gigi, Multi, Malado Vanguard, Future. Um, the last thing you need to do is to pick a fight with me, okay? And pick a fight with Irby, okay? I would suggest that you do the following: shut up, stick to your own little cubby hole in Canada, in your father's garage or what have you, and get the therapy that you need, and stop trying to fight your moronic useless wars, okay, with Gigi and Multi. And this whole thing regarding your Malato spirit, it does not exist. And particularly in light of the fact that you are the only one that is preaching this concept. Okay. So I would suggest you to, get therapy and start, you know, get off of YouTube. With that being said, I just want to let everybody know that all of you are more than welcome to enter your comments after the stream is over. All I ask is let's keep it respectable. And I understand. There's not going to be a lot of people watching. Okay, fine. So again, as I stated before, wait a minute. Let's see. I think I see a comment. The only Daffy Dog tragic, all the security guard front head of the features fake hypocrisy. Oh, I forgot. We're our show. Okay. Now, if we're going to properly address this circus, we need to address them with the proper names I have here. First of all, we have Al the No Show, because basically no one watches his streams, and half the time he puts it in private. Okay, number one. And then we have Hybrid the Zero. Oh, wait a minute. Before we get to Hybrid, that was actually one stream that he did that he basically has more or less the same number of views as I have people on the panel. How pathetic. Okay. Now, as far as Hybrid the Zero and his Molava Spear crap, no one's watching your content, okay? Yeah, well, I have a couple of things on my mind. So get a life. And now, as far as the future is Rust, you being the queen of the mulatto spear, excuse me, you're queen of the delusional spear. Okay, so go over there in the corner and with your fake queen, fake queen, and then just just grow up. And then we have Malato Vampuro buying subs. You know what? Get a life. And we have, of course, we mustn't forget the tragic one. Okay, the one that's preaching, we must avoid drama. We must avoid drama. But guess what? You're the biggest throwing up in all preaching, avoiding drama. When you create drama yourself. So, and I apologize because that I had to vent and express my point of view. So, with that being said, I will be on Thursday at 8:15 p.m. talking about the haters and why we have haters, and we will discuss it. And I just want to say thank you, Gigi. Thank you. Oh boy. Actually, she's more like queen of the delusional spear. But that being said, I apologize for deviating. It does that. I just have a few things to get off my chest. So that being said, I thank everybody for watching this. I even thank the haters who go about giving me free press, talking about I'm retarded, talking about I'm an old, senile white guy, talking about I have an insignificant channel. Well, please. This is coming from a person with less than 60 subs. Get a life, Hybrid. So that being said, let's be good to each other. So this has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Miguel. Wishing all of you a good night. Take care and peace.
Strong.